Hey everybody, welcome to the Steady Steps podcast. This is a place where we talk about how small, steady, intentional choices can revolutionize your life. My name is Brian Volpone. In the 1980s, a neurologist named Dr. David Snowden launched what became one of the most fascinating studies on aging ever conducted. It was called the NUN study of aging and Alzheimer's disease. And he worked with 678 members of the School Sisters of Notre Dame. It was a religious order. They were known for their teaching and their community work, and the goal was simple. It was to understand why some people stay mentally sharp in old age while other people develop dementia or Alzheimer's. And it turned out that nuns were the perfect participants because they all lived structured, healthy, and remarkably similar lives, and that allowed scientists to focus on the things that really mattered. Things like the differences in education and language and outlook and mental activity, and how those shape their health and their longevity. So every year the sisters completed memory and thinking tests, they wrote personal reflections, they shared detailed life histories, and many of them even donated their brains for study after their death, and that was incredible because this is where it really gets wild. When researchers later examined those brains, they found something remarkable. Some of the women had clear physical signs of Alzheimer's, and yet during their life they had shown no symptoms at all. They were curious and social, and they were mentally active right up until their death. And it showed them something really powerful, that the brain will actually rewire itself and it'll add new neural connections and pathways for people that continually learn new things. So learning and curiosity aren't just nice, they can actually protect your mind itself. So let's talk about that.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really relevant for pretty much everyone, lifelong learning. But we're focusing on a specific angle here, not just being curious, but how to actually grow with, real intention, purpose.
Yeah, and that's so important because, let's face it, life can start feeling a bit repetitive, like a loop. Work, home, screens, maybe sleep, then repeat.
Exactly that loop. It feels safe, maybe, but it can also feel stagnant.
Oh, shame.
So today is about finding ways to break that pattern, right? To kind of push the boundaries.
Precisely. It's about expanding your life beyond the everyday routine.
Okay, so let's define this. We're talking about deliberate learning, which is basically curiosity plus direction. Is that fair?
That's a great way to put it. Curiosity with direction. It's not passive, like, oh, that's interesting. It's setting aside real time, intentionally, to build a skill or understanding.
Making it active.
Yes, active intention. That's the core difference. It turns a vague wish like, I should learn something new, into an actual structured project you work on.
And we see this in practice, like when someone actually signs up for a pottery class, commits to it.
Right, or starts using a language app every single morning, even for just 15 minutes. Or, decides they're really going to master the guitar this year.
It's the commitment, the structure. That's what separates a fleeting interest from real growth.
Absolutely. And, it's almost necessary because without that deliberate effort, life just kind of naturally settles. It shrinks down to your immediate tasks, your comfort zone.
Like a gravitational pull towards the familiar.
Exactly. Deliberate learning is what pushes against that pull. It keeps things expanding.
So, okay, we're fighting inertia. What are the real wins here? It's got to be more than just knowing how to make a pot or speak a few words of Spanish, right?
Oh, definitely. It's much deeper. We're talking about brain health, neuroplasticity. When you learn new, tricky things, you're literally building new connections in your brain. Keeps you sharp. But maybe even more importantly, it reminds you that you're not fixed. You're not just the person you are today. You can actually change and grow. Self-reinvention.
I like that. But starting something new is often, scary. How does it build confidence if you feel awkward at first?
Ah, that's key. Confidence comes from the small wins.
Yeah.
You see actual, measurable progress.
Like hitting that chord progression finally.
Exactly. Or understanding a sentence you couldn't before. These little proofs of competence, they stack up. They change how you see yourself. The world feels a bit bigger, a bit less intimidating.
Okay, the benefits make sense, but let's be real, people often don't do this. What stops them? The number one reason you always hear is
Time. I just don't have the time.
right. The universal excuse.
It's the easiest one, but honestly, when you look at how people actually spend their free time, particularly with screens.
Yeah. The phone usage stats are kind of staggering.
They really are. The whole no time argument kind of falls apart. We often have pockets of time, sometimes hours a day, that can be used differently.
Yeah.
It's more about redirecting energy, maybe.
Okay, redirecting. So even if it's just 15 minutes a day, like you said, why is even that hard for people to stick with? Why choose the screen?
Good question. Often it's not really about time, it's about mental energy, cognitive fatigue.
Ah, decision fatigue. End of the day, your brain's tired.
Exactly. It defaults to the easiest thing, passive scrolling. So the trick is to make the learning easier to start, reduce the friction.
How do you do that? Like set your guitar out where you'll see it.
That's part of it. Or using habit stacking. You link the new learning thing to something you already do automatically.
Like practice Spanish flashcards while the coffee brews.
Perfect example. You attach it to an existing habit. Takes less willpower to get started. That's how 15 minutes becomes consistent and powerful.
Okay, that tackles time. What about the other big one? Fear. Fear of sucking at it, basically. Fear of looking stupid.
Yeah, the fear factor is huge. It often comes from mixing up learning with performing.
What do you mean?
When you're learning, you're supposed to make mistakes. That's how you figure things out.
Yeah.
Mistakes are just data. But we judge ourselves like we're supposed to be performing perfectly from day one.
Right, like judging your first pottery attempt against a museum piece.
Exactly. We need to embrace being a beginner. Successful learners know the first few weeks, maybe months, will feel awkward. That's not failure. That's just learning happening.
And what about the I'm too old for this excuse? That feels like a big one, too.
Oh, it's massive. And probably the least true excuse of them all. There's just no real basis for it.
Really? Your brain can still learn effectively later in life.
Absolutely. It might learn differently, maybe needing more repetition or structure than when you were 20, but the capacity is still very much there. People start new careers, get degrees, learn instruments in their 60s, 70s, 80s. It happens all the time.
Okay, so we can manage time, we can reframe fear. But what keeps you going when it gets genuinely hard, when the progress feels slow?
That's where purpose comes in. The why.
The deeper reason.
Yes. If you're just learning something because it seems cool or, to impress someone, you'll probably quit when it gets tough.
But if it's tied to something you really care about,
Then it sticks. If it connects to, say, personal growth or maybe a spiritual goal or helping others, it becomes part of who you are.
like that example you mentioned before we started, the person learning guitar.
Right, the person learning guitar specifically so they could play music for residents in a nursing home.
That's a powerful why. Suddenly, practicing scales isn't just practice.
Exactly. It's about connection, about giving something. That purpose pulls you through the difficult parts. It's not just a task you can drop. It feels like part of your identity.
So bringing it all together, the real reward isn't just the skill itself, is it?
Not primarily, no. The biggest reward is internal. It's the feeling of movement in your life, shifting from feeling stuck to feeling capable again. Agency.
And maybe picking up other useful stuff along the way, like discipline, patience.
Definitely. Those are the transferable skills that enrich everything else. And look, we have proof this works, proof that it's never too late.
The case studies are pretty compelling. Grandma Moses, starting painting seriously in her late 70s.
That's incredible. And becoming famous for it. She just decided to invest her time that way.
Or Colonel Sanders, launching KFC in his 60s. That's learning a whole business model late in life.
A massive global business. Talk about iteration and learning.
And Julia Child, not even going to culinary school until her 50s, then changing how America cooked.
These weren't flukes. They chose to learn. They actively invested effort long after many people think it's too late. They embodied being a learner.
Okay, so let's wrap this up for everyone listening. Key takeaways seem to be: learning keeps life feeling expansive, not shrinking.
And the big roadblocks, time and fear, they're mostly psychological. You can work around them.
And finding that deeper why, that purpose, is what really fuels the engine.
Absolutely. It makes the effort meaningful.
So the question we want to leave you with is this: what grabs your interest enough that you'll actually carve out time for it? Consistently.
What will you invest in learning to do better? That's the real measure.
Because making that choice, protecting that time, that's the commitment.
Yeah. Ultimately, deliberate learning isn't just a thing you do. It's about who you decide to become. The goal isn't just the skill, it's being a learner.
Keep expanding your world. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Being a lifelong learner requires a lot of discipline because, let's be honest, it's a whole lot easier to watch TV or to scroll on your phone or to take a nap than it is to learn something. But there's one specific thing that I hope will help motivate you, and that's having a reason to learn. Let me give you a few examples so you know what I mean. I was a pastor for about 20 years, and during that time, it was a lot easier to find time to do in-depth Bible study. You know why? Because I had to teach lessons and preach sermons, and it gave me a lot of motivation to dig into the Bible and study. And the same thing happens now, but it's because I do this podcast. I study and I learn a lot about habits and mental health and all sorts of historical events like the Nun study, and it's because I have to write and produce these episodes. But it doesn't have to just be studying things. The point is that you're setting aside time and you're using discipline to learn something specific. It could be how to play a musical instrument, it could be getting better at a sport or a hobby, or any kind of a new skill like learning to dance. There's almost an infinite number of ways to learn and grow. One of my brothers started an internet radio station, and another brother has always loved chess, so he reads about it a lot and he plays all the time. I once worked with a woman whose husband loved railroad tunnels. He'd find tunnels and he'd do all sorts of research about them. He'd even interview neighbors of these tunnels and he'd ask them for any kind of stories that they knew. And then he'd write up the details and he'd even make reports about them. Now, that's a really unusual hobby, but I think it's awesomely cool to have something that you love that much. And it goes back to the question that we asked during the discussion. What interests you enough that you'll invest your time to learn how to do it better? Whatever it is for you, a hobby or a sport or communication skills or some academic interest, make a deliberate effort to learn and to grow in that area. Let me leave you with a little math breakdown to put it into perspective, okay? You don't need hours a day to keep learning. You just need consistency. So let's say you spend 15 minutes a day learning something new. That's about 90 hours a year. That's the equivalent of taking 2 college courses or finishing several full-length audiobooks. Since most people stop learning after school, if you spend even a small, focused amount of time improving a skill, like say 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, you'll be ahead of the vast majority of adults in that area within a year. And if you keep that habit going for several years, it's no exaggeration to say that you become an expert in that area. And it doesn't have to be because of talent, it's just because of a steady investment. And that's the power of deliberate learning. Small steps multiplied over time create big change. So what's it going to be for you? What's something that you're passionate about enough that you'll invest 15 minutes a day to get better? I'd love it if you'd let me know in the comments. And also, pass this on to a friend if you think they would be interested. And of course, like and subscribe so we can keep in touch. All right, that's it for this time, guys. Talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the Steady Steps podcast, thoughtful moments and practical insights to help you walk a more intentional path. This show is written and produced by Brian Volpone with M1016 Productions. Our theme music is generated with Mubert. AI voice performances and discussions are supported by Notebook LM, Gemini, and ChatGPT. You can learn more, listen to past episodes, or get in touch at steadystepspodcast.com or email us at any time at steps@steadystepspodcast.com. Thanks for listening and keep taking steady steps.